Welcome to the More Than Anxiety podcast. I'm Megan DeVito, and I'm the life coach for stressed out and anxious women who want more out of life. I'm here to help you create a life you love to live where anxiety isn't holding you back. Get ready for a lighthearted approach to managing anxiety through actionable steps, a lot of truth talk, and inspiration to take action so you walk away feeling confident, calm, and ready to live. Let's get to it. Welcome to episode 46. I am so excited to have you guys here with me today. I get to introduce you to my friend Leslie Duffy. Leslie is a functional medicine practitioner. She's an RN and she's a life coach, and she helps people feel less anxious and balance their hormones through nutrition. So you guys are going to love this. It's going to be so much fun. So Leslie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Tell everybody about who you are and what you do, and how did you get started coaching from being an RN or from being a practitioner?
Well, I was a nurse a long time ago, and I ended up staying home with the kids. And I was, running a household, shuttling kids back and forth everywhere. And I joined a local CrossFit gym, and I was working out and watching what I ate, and I was gaining weight. And I was like, what is going on? But at the same time, I also wanted to go back to work. And I live in North Carolina. And if you haven't worked as a nurse for 5 years, you had to basically go back to something called the RN refresher program. So it's like you had to take courses and you had to do another round of clinical work just to kind of make sure that you were up to date with what's happened since you last worked as a nurse. So, and around that time, I started following Brooke Castillo from the Life Coach School and Self-Coaching Scholars. And somebody I knew suggested I start following that. And it's interesting because it was really early days in her program, and they did a pilot program and they offered free coaching to whoever was enrolled. Like they kind of sent out this blanket email, if you're interested, reply back. So I actually got a one-to-one coach from there for free. And
that is lucky.
I know, it's totally lucky. So through that, I didn't think I could finish the nursing program. It was like an uphill battle. It was like a lot of work. And anyway, along the way, I ended up finishing my refresher program, and I was also diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So, which explained kind of like the weight gain and the low energy and my thyroid not working great. And because of that, I found functional medicine, and I became a functional medicine health coach. And then I went into School of Applied Functional Medicine after I graduated from FMCA. And using my nursing background, I became a functional medicine practitioner. Nice. And then I became a certified life coach. So now I'm combined the two, and I do life coaching and the functional medicine. So
you're kind of the perfect storm. This is awesome. I love it. Leslie knows everything. So for people who don't know, for people who are like, functional medicine, what the heck is that? So what is the difference between functional and more traditional medicine?
So if you could imagine stepping on a tack and having this tack stuck in your foot. And
I've done that actually.
Yeah. Okay. So what functional medicine versus regular, we call it allopathic or Western medicine. If you were to go to the doctor, this is all imaginary, of course, just so to use your imagination, they would give you some Tylenol or some ibuprofen. And then you might even be like, you know what, this pain isn't going away. And they'll give you even stronger pain medication. And all the while you still have a tack stuck in your foot. So think of it as functional medicine. We remove the tack. So we do root cause. What is causing your symptoms? So it's more like a symptom type of medicine where you are an entire whole person. There is not like one part of you that's not connected with another part of you. So like in regular medicine, we have like the nephrologist who deals with the kidneys. We have
Mm-hmm.
the hepatobiliary doctors that only deal with the
Mm-hmm.
liver, or the cardiologists and in regular medicine, it's not all connected, but in functional medicine, it is all connected.
Yeah.
They're all you are like one whole human being. And we also take into consideration socio emotional parts of you that can affect what shows up with you clinically.
Makes so much sense. Like, I don't understand why everyone doesn't do that, because why would we not do that? Why would we wait? So it sounds like maybe even getting to the point where if you know that one thing is like having this butterfly effect kind of on, like if one thing is causing another thing, then you can almost prevent other things by getting to the root cause. Like if it's going to grow out that way, like I would think of it like a shrub, or like it's going to all come from the same place. Like if we could just get to the bottom, then we could just take care of all of it. This is what it sounds like.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you brought up the shrub, because there is we call it like a living matrix. Like think about the roots of a tree, and all of that is lifestyle medicine. It's like, how do you eat? How well do you sleep? How well do you move? And all of that kind of grows the tree. And from there, you get your symptoms. So it's you almost like intuitively got that. You're like, oh yeah, it's like, well done.
I'm looking at my little spider plant here on my tiny little desk thing. So I'm like, okay, I see this. I see what's going on. No, this is so good. And
so I'm like, you have to water the soil. You have to water the roots, right? You have to cultivate like this lifestyle so that you can have good health.
Yeah. This is good. I love this. This is analogies. I like it. Okay. So, like we've talked, Leslie and I met in this mastermind that we are in. We're in the same mastermind. We do have very similar goals, helping people feel less anxious. And for crying out loud, you guys, we've talked so many times about how the world is more anxious than it has been ever. Like everybody is stressed out or anxious. And part of that is normal, because there's normal life stress and there's normal things that would make people anxious. But right now it's just kind of over the top. So what has been your experience with helping people who are dealing with stress or anxiety during like different phases of life? Like for me, I talk a lot about being in perimenopause because I'm 47 and this is where I am. But you know what? What about people who are, different life stages, and how people deal with anxiety wherever they are? Like, how would you look at that from a functional medicine point of view?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So definitely like the perimenopause is like the roller coaster ride of your hormones, right? And what they don't tell you is like, it could last 15 years. So where you're working, I know, right? Sorry, I hate to break it to you, but like, you're working your way into a different phase of your life and your hormones are completely changing. And what's interesting about it is that they call it the second girlhood, where when we're younger, we're starting to think about how difficult it was to be a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And those are the fluctuating hormones, the surges, and you're growing into womanhood. But you're also like, so it's very similar to like teenage years where you're going through puberty, and it's like reverse puberty now when you're in perimenopause. And when you get to menopause, you're more like an 8-year-old girl, because now things have settled down. Yeah. Okay. And so for women in particular, I think that depending on the life stage, if you still have the flow, you're at the effect of the hormones and the fluctuating hormones and the ovulation and then the flow, and then just what happens is your amygdala, it gets a lot more blood flow, it gets a lot more activated during this really it's a lunar cycle, but it's still like very turbulent. So I think that with all my clients that I have helped, mostly they're in that perimenopause 40 and up ages, who usually come to me because they are experiencing those difficulties. Whereas maybe somebody who's younger might experience, I think like hormonally, you might get a lot of people who are struggling to conceive or struggling to get pregnant, or those are not the issues that I help with. But so anyway, so people who come to me, and my experience in helping people with the different phases of the anxiety, really just kind of what I like to do is just normalize what we're going through. And it is extremely normal to I have to laugh because just knowing that your estrogen is dropping, which also means your oxytocin is dropping, which is that tend and care, the caring hormone, the relaxing, you want to be with your children, you're always taking care of children. It's completely different. When you're like, suddenly you don't have that anymore, you're like, I don't give a damn. You're like, pick up your own damn clothes, make your own food, and like, get out of my face. Like, really? And menopause has this kind of like a bad rap for being like, oh, she's in but it's a hormonal change in your life because you don't have the estrogen, you don't have the oxytocin, which is like it's a biologically driven idea where you're like, you want to be caring for other people. And now you get this beautiful time in your life where you just want to take care. Now it's all internal. Now you're like, all right, it's time to take care of me. It's my turn.
Oh, I like this.
I know.
Because it is like, there's this,
too.
Well, and there's this guilt that comes in like, oh my God, like,
yes,
I'm being a bitch, like total hag to my kids. And I don't mean to, but I'm like, hey, no, other room.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, I'm gonna watch what I want. Like,
it's okay. Like I want to normalize that. I want people to know, like, this is, you're not broken. You're not damaged. This is a definite like hormonal change, and we should expect this. And now, you don't have to take care of anybody anymore. You are no longer obligated unless you want to. But most people at this stage of the life, it's like we are really focused on purpose, meaning, and like we anybody like who goes into that second phase or second career, we're like the best employees. We're like, we're on it. We're like, we're very, very focused because we're like, this is my time. And it creates a lot of purpose for us. So
this is so hopeful. And this is good.
Yeah. And hormones really are responsible for how we feel. So
for sure. And no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I think it's interesting though. Like, I love the idea that I think it's an old fashioned idea of, oh, well, you're almost dead now. Like, welcome to menopause. You're on your way to death, or there's this like, oh, well, now you're going to shrivel up and get wrinkled and yucky. But the idea that like, no, now we're focused on what we want and being really like purpose driven and making that be such a like second launch pad of like, and now I get to do all these things. And I think it's also really cool how it kind of lines up like that loss of oxytocin, and how it kind of winds up when your kids get to the age where they do move out, or they do get to be teenagers, and maybe they just don't quite need you there as much. And as hard as that is, because I just mentioned earlier that my oldest just moved. I mean, he didn't move incredibly far away, but there's like the weird state line in between. So he just moved like 3 hours away, and I'm like, oh, that's weird that he's not close anymore, and that that's where he lives, and it's cool.
Yes. Yeah. Do you notice that? And so what's interesting about that is that they've done studies on rats and the little cubs, and there is something where you have the touch. Remember like when the kids were little and like they were always on top of you, and you were, that is like a biological driver for us to take care of our children when we have touch. But when children move out of the nest, right, quote, air quotes, when they move away, we lose that, because now not only we're losing like that oxytocin, the estrogen, but we're losing that hormonally driven need to take care of other people, especially if they're not in front of you. And so like they did studies on rats where they numbed the rat in the chest area, the breast area, and all the front. And they found that that rat lost its mothering instincts towards the cubs. So it is so important, the proximity and the touch of the child, for us to kind of activate that mothering for us.
Yeah.
And so, like, just kind of going back to that, changes in the hormones, we're less interested in the nuances of emotions when things are declining in our hormonal landscape. We're less interested in keeping the peace. We are more interested in meeting our own needs at this time. And we don't get that dopamine rush from taking care of other people anymore. And we're not caring for little children anymore. So we really get that kind of like, now what?
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
Yeah. That's so funny you said that, because that has been like my last 2 weeks. It's funny. My kids have been here, there, and everywhere and having fun. And my youngest is 14. But there was even one night where my husband was like on a fishing trip with my dad. And I had 2 teenagers. One of them was with their friend and the other one was working. And I had the whole house to myself. And I'm like, so this is what it's going to be like. I'm like, I got to find a hobby or some friends. Like I'm like, wait a minute. I wanted it to be quiet and now it is way too quiet. So that is very funny that you like, I was like, oh, maybe I need to do something about this. Yeah.
Right. And then notice like you're less interested about pleasing others, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And now you want to please yourself. Now that like, this is that biological reality where we're like, okay, it's my turn. And it's totally normal and totally okay. And nothing's gone wrong.
That is so good. So all the people who are listening who are like, oh, but I just feel so guilty that I don't have this connection and all of that, or I just feel so lost, you're on track.
Or even what's so funny is even the husbands, they're like, where is my wife? What have you done with her? Like, you're so different from,
we're out.
Like, what the heck happened? Like, and it is literally a hormonal change that's happened where you're like, get your own food. I'm not joking. Like, that has been an issue in our house. I'm like, I'm not making dinner anymore. I've decided. And my husband's like, wait, what?
We don't want to eat the same thing anyway. Yeah. Why would we do that? Oh my gosh. It's like, I think you broke into my house in the last month. I swear that I'm cooking if it's just 2 of us. Why would I do that?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay. I love this. With all of this, is there anything that sticks out to you as like the most important thing that you help people understand? Like, do you feel like it's really that these shifts are normal, or is there something that you're like, hey, if you're feeling this way, this is going to help you feel, because there is a level of, and you and I know as life coaches that it all goes back to what you think about how you feel. What do you think about wanting to take care of yourself? But is there anything that if you're talking to someone who's in that stage of life where you're like, look, this is what you can do to feel, I guess, quote unquote, better, or this is what's going to help you make it through this up and down 15-year roller coaster?
Yeah. It's interesting because I've even read studies on it where they did, they had a cohort of 80 women, and most of them were like, yeah, I can put up with the little difficulties and the struggles with perimenopause / menopause. But it's like when you start to feel invisible and when you start to feel like you have no purpose, when you're kind of lost and untethered, like the family, even your relationship with your husband might be changing. So that part, even in the life coaching realm, that's where we normalize it. How do you want to show up in the world? What do you want? Now you get to focus on yourself, and that's what we do. But as far as physically, we, dealing with the little problems like the hot flashes and the brain response to glucose. This is fluctuating. The way we actually respond now to food is very different too. So just really focusing on physically feeling as well as you can. And our metabolic needs change. We definitely start losing muscle mass and start losing bone density. So it is is incredible when you can tell the difference. And I know like a low glycemic diet, and a lot of people are obsessed with keto, but the idea is that when you can kind of like focus on more whole foods and naturally lower your glycemic and food glycemic load, you'll definitely feel better. But I think that what people are missing is that like the protein, how beneficial the protein is for women in particular in this phase of life, that just really focusing on the protein and the fiber to get you through from one meal to the next, because it stabilizes your mood completely. You don't have the ups and downs of your blood sugar. You and then when you focus also on movement and some strength training, so you don't lose the muscle mass, but it also helps your bone density, like that's huge. And feeling good in your body is really a huge part of it. So that's kind of like where I come in. And like in my program, we have 2 paths. You can do the health track, or you can do the life track, or you can combine the 2. But yeah.
So when you say the glycemic effect on the brain, what does that mean?
So like you are more susceptible to blood sugar drops. Like that you might not even have realized. So, what we, and our organs kind of get older and age, and we aren't as responsive and resilient. Our organs are not as resilient as they used to be. So things like that used to not bother you now might bother you. Like, a glass of wine is not the same as it was 10 years ago. So the way you're responding physiologically to things that, you were used to be able to, like, for example, I cannot have a certain number of carbs at lunch because I will crash in the afternoon, absolutely crash. So I've learned to limit just make it a lettucey type of lunch with a lot of protein and maybe a little bit of like a complex carb, like a high CD type of Mary's Gone crackers. But like you have to really, when you start to actually balance your actual intake, you can notice the difference. You can notice, you didn't realize how happy you were feeling. You had no idea.
Yeah, that's funny. Because I know what foods that I can eat at certain times of the day. I think that was just something that I learned along the way. But I know, like for me, people would say, oh, well, I have to get up and eat like eggs and all this stuff for breakfast. And I'm like, oh God, if I eat protein for breakfast, I'm starving 2 hours. Like, don't feed me that for breakfast. Like, wait. And at lunch, load it up. But it's so funny that, it is really interesting. And I like it that there's like there's like a trial and error in there, it seems like, for different people, like of what works at different times in the day.
Yeah, definitely. You do have to, but I would say that in general, and I mean, I understand, like I can't eat eggs in the morning either. So I've done other things to kind of get that protein in the morning. Right. It resets your circadian rhythm. It resets your circadian clock. There's a lot of benefits to it. And depending on your genetic profile, what works best for you. But all I will say is, like, when you can kind of get that blanket idea of like every meal, just try it, have the protein, see how much better you feel. Notice how you go from one meal to the next with ease, without hunger, without a blood sugar drop, without cravings, without like foggy brain. And I think you and I had an offline conversation where I'm like, you know what? I don't know when I'm hungry. I literally just get anxious. Like all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, like nothing's working. I get so easily frustrated. I'm like, oh, it's actually past lunch. Like,
and I get exhausted and grouchy where I'm like, I have to sleep or I'm going to cry and snap somebody in half. Like I just get really tired and really grouchy. And then I'm like, oh wait, I haven't eaten forever.
Yeah. And we do have to treat ourselves like toddlers. Do you need a snack? Do you need a rest? Do you need a nap? Be loving and caring to yourself too. Like you need nutrients. Don't skip meals.
Well, remind me to tell you afterwards of what it was like the other day when I could not figure out why I couldn't wake up because, I had a whole thing, but we'll save that. It was crazy though. So with what you do with functional medicine, like what should someone look for if they're trying to find someone locally for functional medicine help? Like what do they look for?
Well, I would say that functional medicine is fantastic. There are several people out there that can help. There are people in my position who do online functional medicine, and there are local doctors too. And what to look for is where you want good certification, like IFM, Institute for Functional Medicine, and also School of Applied Functional Medicine, which would be AFMC certified. So a lot of people out there just call themselves functional medicine practitioners, and they're not, and they might have taken a couple of courses and they're not fully certified. So that's what I would just say, just start looking for that. The other thing is, what about the follow-up? Like, find out, a lot of the time they might run a lot of tests and then kind of leave you high and dry. So just make sure that there's a good follow-up and that they kind of give you a doable plan, and maybe they have a health coach on staff that can kind of help you through it, because sometimes you do have like huge changes that you have to make to your lifestyle that are difficult to do. So definitely just make sure that you get what you need. And if not, go out and find somebody that can help you with that part. Because sometimes they just do the front end where it's like, okay, here's your testing. Here's what we discovered. Here's what you need to do. I'll see you in 6 months. And you're like, what?
Because you meet with clients online. So what all, like if someone were to meet with you online, what would they experience?
So if they're in my health track, I would get their doctor's office, like regular physical, yearly physical. They could send me their blood work, and that could be a good starting point. And then I would get a really deep dive history on their medical situation, on their medical history. I do a timeline. I want to know when, a lot of my people have like gut issues. They also have like anxiety issues and hormone issues, obviously. But like, when did this start showing up? We do a big timeline. We try to connect the dots. And then I might recommend testing or ask them to go get some more testing. And so I can order a gut test. I can order a hormone test. I can order anything. And then we start to meet. We kind of create a plan, and then we meet every other week. And we do in between every 2 weeks, we get a 1 week like audio check-in where I send a form where you just kind of tell me what's happening, and then I send back a verbal response. Doing great. Let's tweak this. Let's tweak that, and then we'll touch base next week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do they find you? So if somebody's like, oh, yes, I need to talk with her right now, where can they find you?
So I am on Instagram at Sage Life Health. It's SAGELIFE HEALTH. It's a long one, but it's and I also am on LinkedIn, and I have a website, sagelifehealth.com. And also, if people don't want to do the health track, they can do the life track, which is basically managing, doing life, just goals, and creating a program for you where you can focus on prioritizing yourself, which is really hard for us women, and men. I think anybody really, and focusing on really finding out some deeper default thoughts that we might have that aren't really serving us. And so kind of overcoming a couple of things and changing the belief system, and focusing on putting yourself first. So it's great.
So good. And I will put links to your website, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, and all that in the show notes. So you guys can always go check the show notes, and then you can connect with Leslie there and reach out to her and talk all the functional medicine things. So This was so good. And I learned so much about what the heck is going on with myself during this. And oh my gosh, this was so fun. Thank you so much for being on here. Is there anything else? Like, what else do you want to share with people? Is there anything else?
I think just really, you would be surprised how much diet can make you feel good and make you feel bad. So just give that a shot too. Just I think that when we don't realize how poorly we can feel until you actually are feeling really great, and it creates safety in your body too. That's the other thing I want to add, that a well-nourished, well-hydrated body is not a body that is reactive, that is not in a fight or flight that you don't even know about. Your body can be in fight or flight that you don't even think about. If you're having, I also do food sensitivity testing. If you're having food sensitivity issues and you don't even know it, that also is going to create a heightened anxiety in your body and a heightened reactivity in your body. So all of that, it is a big picture.
Yeah, that's incredible. And for everyone, like you guys, if you've been on any other episodes, I've talked about that anxiety is just you reacting to how your body feels. And if you're reacting because you're allergic to apples and you eat an apple every day for lunch, hey, how easy is it just to swap out for an orange or some grapes and to feel better? That's something that simple. And Leslie can totally help you figure that out. And that's amazing. I love this stuff. I love it. So thank you so, so much. Thank
you for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, you are so welcome. This was great. I will talk to you again soon.
Love it.
Okay, my friends, I hope you really loved this interview. I had so much fun talking with Leslie and introducing her to you. And if you would like to get in touch with her about how she can help you using functional medicine to help you with hormones or your mood or anything else that's going on, you can check the show notes and I will make sure to link up her Instagram or her LinkedIn and her website on there so you can get in touch with her. And of course, if you want to talk with me about anxiety or about stress and how I can help you through life coaching, you can also do that by going to my website or clicking the link in the show notes. And either way, I will talk to you soon, if not on a consultation call, the next week. Take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the More Than Anxiety podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review so others can easily find this resource as well. And of course, if you're ready to feel more relaxed, have more energy, more confidence, and a lot more fun, go to megandevito.com/work with me or just to the show notes to talk to me more about coaching. See you soon.